Again, with July 1st come and gone for the start of the 22-23 athletic calendar year, you've got 4 new teams in the Sun Belt Conference as of right now: JMU, Marshall, Old Dominion, and Southern Miss. We're going to dive into this week kind of an overarching history, some characteristics of these teams, what you can expect when these teams come to Statesboro. Georgia Southern heads to their respective places. We'll start with JMU. And again, you can get your questions in on any of these teams. If you've got a question for a team we're going to do a little bit later this week, go ahead and get it in on Facebook Live or tweet us at GS Sports Network. But we'll start with JMU. A little bit of the history. They're nicknamed the Dukes, came from their second university president, Samuel Page Duke. They were a charter member of the Colonial Athletic Association back in 92. Was once an all-women's college, founded in 1908, which I didn't know.
That's right.
And had a strong history of women's sports beginning back in the 1920s. Admitted the first men and started men's sports in the late 40s. Became fully co-ed back in the late 1960s. Their AD, the names sound a little bit familiar. Jeff Bourne, their athletic director, has done a really good job in his tenure up at JMU. He is the uncle to Christian Bourne, yes, director of baseball operations for Georgia Southern Baseball.
This is a move that James Madison has thought about doing for about a decade, and you got to go back to a coach by the name of Mickey Matthews that led them to their first national championship. He spent some time as the D coordinator at Coastal Carolina, but he saw the potential in Harrisonburg, Virginia, and how that school and that town work so well together and the successes they've had in football. I mean, they won a national championship in 2016 as they have really become the North Dakota state that's not the North Dakota state. It's pretty much those two guaranteed to occupy 2 of the semifinal spots at least when you're looking at the FCS playoffs. But with the way that they have continued to grow, they come into the league. They've got the biggest athletic budget in the league now.
Yeah.
And Old Dominion's in second. If that shows you what exactly the league is getting, not just in terms of passion fan bases, but they've also got a little bit of green to them. But for James Madison, they've had a lot of success, not just in football. They had a national championship appearance just a year ago in softball. They've had a lot of success in field hockey. Basketball was really good in the 80s and 90s. They've been struggling to get back to that, and we can speak to that a little bit more because our old buddies Mark Byington, John Cremens are on the men's basketball staff, so he'll get a chance to make his return to Statesboro. We'll, of course, go to that beautiful Atlantic Bank Union Center up in Harrisonburg, just opened this past year. It is absolutely gorgeous. They won a regular season championship during the COVID season in their first year in the Colonial. Got a little bit sidetracked this year whenever the Colonial came out and said, well, you're going up a level. You're not eligible for conference championships anymore. It became a contest of sorts. And then they end up finishing below 500, but still the ability to get the talent up there from a men's basketball standpoint. Football-wise, Kurt Signetti is the head coach. He has been insanely successful. They've lost 5 games in 3 years. They've been infused with transfers, knowing that they're going to make the move up. Now, they have lost some guys in key places, but a name you'll recognize pretty quickly. Jarius Romanek transferred there from Arkansas State, and I would think you could pencil him in at one of the spots, either at corner or safety, because he played both out in Jonesboro.
Yeah, and it's a JMU football team moved from D3 to 1AA in the 1980 season. 1993 became a part of the CAA, twice the NCAA, 1AA or FCS national championships. You mentioned the 2016, also won one back in 2004. They made 5 NCAA tournament appearances on the men's basketball side, and you talked about opening up the Atlantic Union Bank Center in the fall of 2020, a huge addition to that athletic program. And it's an athletic program that women's basketball has been a really good sport for them. They became, back in the 1920s, one of the longest running women's basketball programs in the country, the 3rd longest running in the NCAA. They've made 11 NCAA tournament appearances, and they're one of 3 NCAA women's basketball teams with 1,000 wins.
I did not realize that.
I didn't either until earlier this afternoon. But when you're one of 3 women's basketball programs to do anything, you're doing pretty well.
Baseball-wise, head coach Martin Eichenberry has been there for a long time. He just got a contract extension not too long ago. They had one of the top prospects in the country this year in Chase DeLauder, an outfielder who could also pitch a little bit. He did get hurt and didn't put up the stats that I'm sure he would have wanted to. He was sizzling at the time of the injury, but somebody that here very soon is going to hear his name called in the MLB draft. I want to say that's sometime in the next couple of days. But this one is okay, and we could say this for any of the four, there's a lot of football history between these two if you go back in the 80s and 90s. Yeah, a lot of football history between these two.
This is one, and I know you feel the same way because of a lot of the same reasons, but this is one that I really like because I love to see teams jump from FCS to FBS and have success, like Georgia Southern did, like Appalachian State did, like Coastal Carolina has done. Being able to see that success, and you look at the last three that we mentioned, all coming to the Sun Belt, now you've got JMU trying to do the same thing. That's something that I think could be a really big storyline because this is, and there are some that make the jump from FCS to FBS that you know it's going to take a couple of years, but this is a JMU team that I think can come in and their AD, Jeff Bourne, put out a letter, almost like a Benko briefing that comes out here at Georgia Southern, put out a letter on July 1st whenever they were officially in the Sun Belt Conference and said, look, this isn't a move that we made for years down the road. We expect to be competitive in pretty much every sport right now, and I think that's an opportunity they have.
They are going to have to deal potentially with what Georgia Southern dealt with in 2014. You're not going to be eligible for the Football League Championship yet. Yeah. You could still be named a champion, but you would not be able to represent the East Division. Now that you have 14 teams with the 7-7, they would not be able to go or host a conference championship game regardless of how things are going to work out. We already mentioned the amount of money that they have. When you move up, that's what you need. You have to have that investment, whether it's already having it in stockpile or finding a way to creatively generate money, which is kind of the camp that Georgia Southern has been in with the construction of the IPF, with the Hill Convocation Center. That's where Georgia Southern is trending towards. But in what James Madison's framework has been to already have that kind of budget, they've opened the new basketball arena. They're about to have major renovations at softball for a program that probably needs a pick-me-up. They did have a death on their team this season. They are recently off of a national championship appearance, but to have that kind of positivity infused as a sidebar to what they've already done on the football field, I would anticipate them having a lot of success in a number of different ways as they join this league this coming year.
One final note, they do have 5 athletic national championships. 1994, they defeated UNC in field hockey. That's a sport that I hope that we're up there on like a Saturday for football and they play field hockey on Friday because we're going to go. 1995, they won the NCAA archery championship. 2004 and 16, as we mentioned, with football, and then women's lacrosse, a 2018 national champion.
Bridgeforth Stadium is not a facility we're going to visit this year because James Madison will be Georgia Southern's homecoming opponent for 2022, but we'll get a chance to travel up to see the new digs for basketball. Baseball-wise, that schedule will be announced relatively soon, but being that one of the 3 teams in the East, the new teams in the East, are the Dukes, we'll get a chance to see quite a bit of them.